Stop engaging in these 7 behaviors that can be detrimental to your health if you are between the ages of 65 and 80 and are still sexually active. Is it possible that the way you engage in sexual activity at your age is not causing any harm to your body? If you are beyond the age of 65 and you are still having sexual relations, it is time that we talk about a few things that the majority of people won't mention out loud. This may be a difficult topic to have. Sex is not a negative thing simply because you are older, nevertheless. Many people who are older are unaware that they are engaging in behaviors that are gradually detrimental to their health and can cause their spouse to feel more distant. The reality is that physical proximity can be one of the most beautiful aspects of aging, however. This is only the case if it is treated with the appropriate mentality and in the appropriate manner. Changes occur in our bodies over time. Everything changes, including our hearts, our hormones, and our requirements. The strategies that were successful for you when you were in your 40s or 50s might not be applicable when you are in your 70s. In addition, if you continue to rely on outmoded practices or beliefs that are not spoken about, it may result in more harm than good that you experience. Within the context of this video, we are going to go over 7 activities that people of a certain age should immediately quit performing. When it comes to sexual encounters and intimate relationships, whether you are in a long-term relationship, dating again after a significant amount of time has passed, or simply trying to feel more connected to yourself and your partner, these insights can assist you in protecting your body, strengthening your emotional connection, and building confidence in ways that are truly supportive of this stage of life. Stay with me to the very end because gaining an awareness of these 7 habits may not only protect you from experiencing bodily discomfort or emotional uncertainty, but it may also assist you in rediscovering something wonderful, something genuinely human that a lot of people lose up on too quickly. It's time to get started. To begin, disregarding the health of the cardiovascular system. When it comes to intimacy, one of the most common mistakes that older adults make is the misconception that it is solely about hormones, desired outcomes, or feelings of mood. The truth of the matter is, however, that at this point in your life, your heart health is the most important issue regarding anything, including your sexual health. Moreover, it is frequently disregarded until there has already been a sensation of alarm. At the age of 76, I knew a man named Harold who still had a great deal of interest in intimate relationships. In addition to having a good connection with his wife of nearly half a century, he was also mentally sharp and emotionally available. However, there was a shift in place. No longer did he feel as powerful. It was easier for him to get winded, and in spite of his yearning, his body did not react in the same manner that it had in the past. He attributed it to the passage of time. That's something that a lot of us do. However, the reality was that his circulation had been gradually decreasing over the course of several years. But no one had noticed it in time. Having adequate circulation is necessary for having a sexual encounter. Blood flow, stamina, and overall reactivity are all elements that are impacted by this condition. On the other hand, everything is negatively affected when the arteries begin to constrict, and the heart has to work harder just to pump blood through the vessels that are stiff. Moreover, this does not occur automatically overnight. It is a gradual process that is frequently concealed by self-justifications such as, "I'm just tired today," or, "Perhaps I'm not in the mood." In the course of a normal medical examination, Harold discovered that his blood pressure had been elevated for a considerable amount of time. Up until the point where closeness became uncomfortable, there were no symptoms or warning signals. In his explanation, his physician stated that the very same system that was responsible for maintaining the strength of his heart was also the one that was affecting his energy, his arousal, and his capacity to take pleasure in intimacy. After beginning to tackle the issue by walking more, eating differently, and maintaining a consistent pharmaceutical regimen, he experienced a change in his condition. This is not just a physical but also an emotional issue. He exuded more self-assurance, was more present, and was more himself. The fact that problems with intimacy are frequently early warning indications of cardiovascular difficulties is something that a lot of people are unaware of. It would be irresponsible to write them off altogether. These are not about getting older. This is your body's way of telling you to pay attention. Also, this is true for females as well. Although the symptoms manifest themselves in a variety of ways, the fundamental problem is frequently the same. Decreased circulation, hormonal alterations, and strain on the cardiovascular system also occur. It's possible that the dryness, discomfort, or apathy that you're experiencing is entirely psychological in nature. It's possible that your heart is pleading for assist. Therefore, if you haven't gotten your blood pressure tested in a while, or if you've been putting off getting your cholesterol checked, now is the time to bring it up. This is not because there is something wrong, but rather because there is something precious that should be protected. Harold did not make significant adjustments. It is not true that he went vegan or ran marathons. He just began walking after supper, made the move from processed snacks to fruit and nuts, and continued to follow up with his physician. He regained his self-assurance over a period of 6 months. Also, his relationship with his wife was very strong. Your heart health is not simply about longevity, whether you are in your senior years and you are still sexually active, or even if you are merely wanting to be sexually active in the future. The quality of life is at stake here, regarding maintaining the strength necessary to take pleasure in the activities that enrich, personalize, and profoundly satisfy one's life. The bedroom may appear to be a space that is focused on feelings or hormones. However, at this age, the heart acts as the starting point. 2. Relying on supplements that are available without a prescription, without any kind of direction. Someone who has tried a new drug that they found on the internet gets in touch with me once a week. A bottle off the shelf of the pharmacy or something that a buddy asserted performed wonderfully was the solution. Improved stamina, improved energy, or a return to the kind of vitality they had when they were 30 are the promises made by the majority of these supplements. And I do understand it. When things slow down and the body seems less sensitive, there is a strong temptation to cure the problem with something that is quick and easy to perform. On the other hand, many people are unaware of the fact that certain over-the-counter pills, particularly those that are marketed toward improving sexual performance, may in fact cause more harm than advantage. Roger, who is 69 years old, began using a natural booster that he discovered on the internet. It was stated on the label that it was beneficial to male vitality, and the packaging was full of adjectives that were impressive. Certain phrases, such as testosterone support, nitric oxide, and endurance blend, are used. For the next 3 months, he took it on a daily basis. First, he stated that he was experiencing something, just a little bit of more vigor, perhaps a little bit more force. The headaches, however, started to appear. His blood pressure took a sharp rise. His anxiety was completely unwarranted. Sleeping was difficult for me. On another occasion, he passed out while ascending the stairs in the afternoon. Roger had no notion that the supplement he trusted was causing an interaction with the prescription he was taking to treat his high blood pressure. Because no one was present to inquire about it, he was not given any warning. No regulations were placed on the product. Despite the fact that they appeared to be natural, the components consisted of a combination of chemical compounds and plants that had a stimulating effect. Seek the advice of your physician. As stated in the fine print, to tell you the truth, only a small percentage of individuals do it when they are purchasing something at a petrol station or placing an order through an advertisement on the internet. When you reach this age, your body is more aware of the effects of imbalance. Your liver functions at a slower rate. Your kidneys are working less hard. The dosages of any drugs that you take are carefully adjusted to ensure that you remain within a safe range. The addition of unregulated supplements on top of that, without understanding exactly what elements are contained within them or how they will interact with one another, can throw everything out of sync. In particular, those that are designed to improve sexual performance. A great number of them contain components that can cause your blood pressure to rise. your blood to become thinner, or your heart rate to quicken. Simply having that can put you at risk for having a stroke, particularly if you already have high blood pressure or atrial fibrillation because of your condition. There are some that conceal prescription medications that are not stated on the label. There are other combinations of herbs that, when consumed together, amplify the negative effects of the individual plants. Everything started to change after he stopped using it and had help from his physician from the beginning. His blood pressure returned to normal. His uneasiness began to subside. In addition, with the assistance of a medical professional, he discovered more beneficial methods to boost his vitality, such as strength training, to improve his sleep and to make adjustments to his diet. There is nothing showy or hazardous about it. Simple, long-term adjustments that were not only beneficial to his body but also operated in harmony with it. Give yourself a moment of reflection before taking another tablet. Whether you are considering trying a supplement for the first time or you already have one in your cabinet at the moment, inquire with your physician. You should bring the bottle with you. Make sure you are aware of what is contained within it, how it can interact with your medications, and whether or not it is really required. It is not a sign of weakness to want to feel as good as possible. Shortcuts, however, become more dangerous as we become older. Yes, the body is more experienced, but it also has a more delicate nature. Moreover, the objective is not only to function. The goal is to flourish in a manner that is secure, consistent, and founded on the truth rather than advertising. Roger continued to engage in intimate behavior. He decided to quit taking chances with his health, and that change brought him more than just improved performance. It provided him with a sense of calm. I would appreciate it if you could use the second comment section below to let me know that you are continuing viewing this video and that you are finding these insights to be helpful. I strongly suggest that you subscribe to the channel and activate the bell if you have not already done so. This will ensure that you do not miss any videos. With your assistance, we are able to continue producing high-quality content that will both inform and inspire you. Let's proceed with our plans now. The third strategy is to avoid having open and honest conversations with your physician. When it comes to matters of intimacy, one of the most common types of blunders that elderly citizens do is to remain mute. Not with their spouses but with their physicians. I am able to comprehend the reason. When it comes to discussing sexuality with a healthcare practitioner, many of us, particularly those who were brought up in a different era, experience social discomfort. It's a private matter, and it might even be kind of embarrassing. We are assuming that they will disregard it. Or, even worse, we make the assumption that there is nothing that can be done. On the other hand, avoiding the talk frequently causes more damage than the problem itself. A woman called Carol, who was 73 years old at the time, shared with me that she and her husband had become emotionally distant during the course of their marriage. She explained that this was not because they did not care about each other, rather, it was because both of them were experiencing discomfort during intimate moments, and neither of them wanted to admit it. Carol placed the blame on menopause. She blamed her husband, George, on his age. They were both under the impression that a waning sexual life was unavoidable. Nevertheless, this is the bit that has stayed with me. Carol had been maintaining a regular schedule with her physician, which included going in for checks, controlling her arthritis, and even keeping her cholesterol under control. And she had never once mentioned the discomfort she experienced during intimate encounters. In no way had George ever revealed the difficulties he experienced with arousal. Simply said, it did not seem like the appropriate subject to bring up. However, Carol's doctor was not startled when she finally did bring it up. Almost by mistake, during a normal visit during which she was being treated. This did not make her feel uneasy. In point of fact, she stated that it was one of the most prevalent problems that her elderly patients encountered. Furthermore, there were actual remedies to the problem. To alleviate her dryness, Carol started using a medication that did not contain any hormones. With the help of a referral, George was able to have his vascular health evaluated, which indicated that he had a tiny obstruction that was preventing blood flow. There was nothing particularly noteworthy, yet it was significant enough. And there is enough to fix. One chat was all it took to bring about the changes that ultimately lead to their reunion. This is not just a physical but also an emotional issue. There is a widespread misconception among older persons that their doctor is no longer responsible for addressing their sexual health. However, it is the case. Not only does it have an impact on the quality of your life, but it also has the potential to indicate more serious health issues when overlooked. It is possible that symptoms such as erectile dysfunction, vaginal dryness, or a decrease in libido could be early markers of cardiovascular disease, diabetes, or problems with hormone balance. It is not possible to make them disappear by ignoring them. Simply put, it postpones assistance. If you are going to be seeing a new doctor and you are uncomfortable bringing it up, you should try to begin easily. Do you mind if I ask you a question regarding relationships? Alternately, I've seen that something has changed, and I'm curious as to whether or not it's anything that we can discuss. That's all that is required. Not only are you not the first person to inquire, but you will not be the last. Not only does having open and honest interactions with your physician help your physical function, the emotional well-being, the happiness of relationships, and even the confidence in day-to-day life are frequently improved as a result of their implementation. Being aware that you are not broken, having the knowledge that there is a reason, that in and of itself is a relief. The topic of drugs is another one to consider. Side effects that impact sexual function are associated with a number of prescription drugs, including blood pressure meds, antidepressants, and even some medications that are available without a prescription. In the event that you remain silent, it is possible that your physician will remain unaware that you are experiencing those adverse effects. It is possible that all that is required to restore equilibrium is a minor modification to the dosage or the substitution of a different drug. According to what George shared with me, the thing that he cherished the most after his checkup was neither a prescription or a diagnosis. It was observed by people. Having someone listen to you without passing judgment was great. At that very instant, he experienced a return to his human nature. It is not concealed. A reasonable age, simply a man living his life to the fullest. You deserve to have a healthcare professional that respects your desire to maintain your health in every way, including physically, emotionally, and intimately. Regardless of your age, a talk is the first step in this process. Do not allow embarrassment to prevent you from getting better. Do not allow fear to prevent you from speaking up. Sharing your health story is something you have the right to do, and doing so could very well lead to a more robust and satisfying chapter in your life. Number 4. Failing to take into account diet and hydration. The food and beverages that you consume on a daily basis have a significant impact on your energy levels, circulation, and hormones, despite the fact that it may appear to be too basic to be of any significance. When it comes to intimacy, there are 3 pillars that profoundly affect your experience. Many people who are in their latter years fail to recognize the significance of hydration and diet, instead concentrating on more obvious issues such as age, medication, or mood, when your body is not receiving the right nourishment. However, everything slows down, including your desire and your ability to perform. Consider Frank, who is 71 years old. He was not in a severe condition. Even though he played golf twice a week, he walked his dog every morning, cooked at home most nights, and even walked his dog daily. However, he frequently experienced feelings of exhaustion and sluggishness, and he described himself as being just not up for anything more than the basics. He blamed his age and believed that perhaps he was simply dissipating on the inside. On the other hand, he came to the realization that he had been badly dehydrated for a number of years after working with a nutritionist at the insistence of his daughter. He was also not getting nearly enough magnesium or zinc in his diet. Nor was he getting enough healthy fats, in addition to having an effect on blood flow and nerve sensitivity. These nutrients have a direct influence on testosterone production. No matter how mildly thirsty your body feels, the volume of blood in your body will decrease. This indicates that your heart must exert more effort in order to pump blood. The elasticity of your skin decreases. Your muscles become more contracted, and your joints begin to hurt. Movement is made uncomfortable as a result of all of this. Consider the following implications for intimate relationships: decreased sensitivity, slower arousal, decreased endurance, and an increased chance of cramping or strain. This may not sound romantic, but it is in fact the case. And for a great number of elderly people, it is entirely avoidable. Sugar and processed foods are also issues to consider. Frank was completely unaware that the frozen dinners he enjoyed eating or the store-bought sauces he used in his cooking were filled with sodium and additives that caused his blood pressure to soar and caused him to retain water. Despite the fact that he was consuming what appeared to be typical meals, the majority of it included very little nutritious value. Although he was full, his body was not energized. As soon as he made some little adjustments, such as the addition of leafy greens to his plate, the substitution of grilled fish for processed meat, and the consumption of water throughout the day rather than just at meals, his energy levels returned, certainly not instantly, but gradually. Additionally, he regained a sense of vitality that he had believed he had lost for good. In addition to that, there is the issue of blood sugar. Your blood glucose levels will skyrocket if you consume a breakfast that is high in sugar, such as toast with jam, a muffin, or even a yogurt that has been sweetened. You have a pleasant feeling for a short while. When this happens, your insulin begins to work, your blood sugar begins to drop, and you begin to feel groggy, irritable, and weary. Due to the fact that this cycle continues throughout the day, you will feel older than you actually are. However, the issue is not age but rather instability. Your hormones, your stamina, and your capacity to feel connected to your body are all impacted as a result of this instability. The impact of an individual's diet and level of hydration can be considerably more acute for women. Certain hormones, such as estrogen, have an effect on the suppleness of tissues as well as lubrication. In addition, the food that you consume might either help or hurt that equilibrium. Nuts, avocados, and olive oil are examples of healthy fats that can assist with the balance of hormones. Dryness can be alleviated by eating fluid-rich fruits such as watermelon or cucumbers. Ginger and cinnamon are two popular herbs that have been shown to promote circulation. Nothing in this calls for a diet that is flawless. No one is requesting that you abstain from every single indulgence. However, each seemingly insignificant decision adds up. To start the day off right, a glass of water. The alternative to cookies would be a handful of almonds, instead of a plate that is beige, a plate that is vibrant. The health of the heart and digestion are not the only benefits of these adjustments. In doing so, they establish the groundwork for vitality, attentiveness, and self-assurance. After 2 months of improving his dietary habits and maintaining a regular level of hydration, Frank informed me that he was not only more active in bed. In discussion, he was more cheerful, more willing to start closeness, and more open to new experiences. He was also more open to new experiences. It was then that he began to view intimacy as a manifestation of wellness, rather than as something that required effort. We are not talking about becoming a health nut. It is about providing your body with what it requires, what it was designed to do, which is to connect, engage, and provide a sense of being alive. I would appreciate it if you could use the 4th comment section below to let me know that you are continuing viewing this video and that you are finding these insights to be helpful. I strongly suggest that you subscribe to the channel and activate the bell if you have not already done so. This will ensure that you do not miss any videos. With your assistance, we are able to continue producing high-quality content that will both inform and inspire you. Let's proceed with our plans now. 5th, ignoring the emotional connection between the two parties. A person's physical attractiveness can carry a lot of weight when they are in their 30s and 40s. Hormones, a desire for something new, and a natural crave for intimacy are frequently the driving forces behind the emergence of passion. On the other hand, as we become older, Another factor becomes more important: our emotional connection. Nevertheless, it is one of the first things that many people in their latter years tend to miss when the intimacy begins to diminish. We had a conversation with a couple named Howard and Marlene, who had been married for 38 years. They still loved one another, continued to live together in harmony, continued to eat together, run errands together, and continued to get together as a family. Nevertheless, in the bedroom, there was a calm distance. There was no rejection, no argument, there was only absence. When they attempted to discuss it, Marlene would respond by saying that she just was not in the mood to do it. Howard would dismiss it as nothing more than the current state of affairs. However, on a more fundamental level, they both experienced feelings of isolation. Nevertheless, they were unaware of the fact that the problem was not with their bodies. The chasm that had gradually developed between their hearts was the cause of this. They would go through the motions of raising children, managing their health, and coping with the stress of retirement, and eventually they would stop being emotionally fascinated about one another. Without that feeling of emotional safety and curiosity, the outcome was something that could have been predicted. It seemed like a forced physical intimacy. It turned into something that they avoided, and even feared, instead of making intimacy more difficult as we get older. The irony is that emotional connection is what makes it easier. Not only does it convey a sense of protection, but it also gives the impression that one is observed and wanted much beyond their performance. You are more likely to relax, convey your needs, and be present when you feel emotionally close to someone. This prevents you from being self-conscious and allows you to be more present. Now is the time when true closeness takes place, not merely via physical contact but through something much more profound. In the case of Howard and Marlene, the turning moment occurred after a rather minor change. They started going for a stroll together every evening for a little distance. There will be no phones and no distractions. Simply 15 minutes of discourse that is uncensored. They started asking each other questions that they hadn't said to each other in years. What are you missing out on? What is it that excites you right now? What is it that you require more of? The emotional connection between them brought them back together gradually. However, without concentrating on repairing the bedroom, something else occurred in that area as well. They laughed more and caressed each other more. It was not because they made an effort to bring back intimacy, rather, it was because they nourished the portion of their relationship that had been lacking vitality. There are a lot of older people who believe that sexual activity must be the same as it was when they were younger or else it is not worth attempting. The fact of the matter is, however, that what gives it significance now is different. There is no sense of urgency, spark, or proving something about it. Trust, emotional safety, and a sense of playfulness are all things that result from having a profound familiarity with one another. Particularly essential for individuals who are dating again in their later years is the fact that this is the case. Emotional connection can be both thrilling and terrifying for people who have experienced the loss of a spouse, gone through the process of divorce, or are navigating a new relationship after being out of practice for decades. It's possible that you'll find yourself holding back in order to safeguard your heart. On the other hand, the more you try to avoid being emotionally present, the more challenging it will be to develop a physical connection that is both satisfying and credible. Take a moment to reflect on this if you feel that this is something that resonates with you. When was the last time you asked your partner what they were frightened of? As of late, what provides them happiness? Which portion of their body is experiencing the most vitality at the moment? These are not merely inquiries, rather, they are points of entry. By passing through them, we create space for something that goes beyond a simple physical connection. By establishing a sense of security and warmth, we are able to relax our guard. Something that Howard shared with me once left an impression on me. Not for the first time in years did I not have the impression that I needed to put up a show. I simply had the sensation of being desired. And with that, everything was different. It is the emotional connection that accomplishes this. It does not take the place of material things. Having it makes it simpler, more satisfying, and more pleasurable. There is no such thing as flawless sexual behavior whether you are in your 60s, 70s, or even 80s. What is important is that it seems genuine, reciprocal, and secure. This begins with the degree to which your hearts are coming into contact with one another much before your bodies do. Ignoring the need of sleep and recuperation is the sixth mistake. The majority of people, when considering strategies to improve intimacy in their senior years, think about taking medication, communicating with one another, or even engaging in physical activity. Sleep, on the other hand, is one of the variables that is least discussed and most frequently ignored. Moreover, I am not referring to simply resting when you are feeling exhausted. When I say deep sleep, I'm referring to the kind of sleep that is constant, restorative, and allows your body to repair itself, regulate hormones, and remain alert and receptive throughout the day. There is a possibility that you do not believe that your sleeping pattern has any bearing on your sexual life. However, the relationship is quite profound. If you are unable to obtain a good night's sleep, whether it be because you are getting up too early, going to bed too late, or waking up too frequently, your body will not necessarily feel weary. Hormonally speaking, it starts to malfunction. The levels of testosterone decrease. Your stress hormone, cortisol, is elevated as a result. A more reactive state is exhibited by your nervous system. Your ability to regulate your emotions decreases. Not only does this make it more difficult to be intimate physically, but it also makes it more difficult emotionally. At the age of 75, a man named Lester had been married for more than 4 decades. Even though he and his wife continued to sleep in the same bed, his snoring had become more severe. Every night, he would wake up 4 or 5 times, and he would occasionally be unaware that he was awake. He experienced fatigue during the day, had difficulty concentrating, and started to lose interest in intimate relationships. This was not because he was indifferent, rather, it was because his body was always operating in survival mode. Lester was resistant to his doctor's suggestion that he do a sleep study. In his opinion, it was extremely unneeded and maybe a little bit dramatic. On the other hand, after considerable persuasion, he gave in. A moderate level of sleep apnea was found in the results. His respiration stopped dozens of times every hour, which prevents oxygen from reaching his brain and the rest of his body. Everything was different after Lester began using a continuous positive airway pressure (CPAP) machine. He did not regain his vigor immediately, but it did so within a few weeks. He awoke with a sense of alertness. His memory became healthier, walking more, smiling more, and creating greater connection with his wife were all things that he started doing. As for his sexual life, it did get better. He did not take a medicine or have a treatment, rather, he finally provided his body with the recuperation it required in order to perform to its full potential. Sleep has a far wider range of effects than we are aware of. Blood pressure is regulated, heart health is supported, mood is balanced, and hormone levels are restored as a result of its use. Inadequate sleep can make hot flashes, irritability, and dryness worse for women, particularly those who have gone through the menopause. Interruptions in sleep have been shown to have a negative impact on testosterone levels, libido, and endurance in males. If you have been experiencing fatigue upon waking up, or if your partner has noted that you snore loudly or appear restless during the night, it is important to pay attention to these symptoms. These are not relatively insignificant annoyances. The signals that your body is delivering are these: having a tendency of falling asleep in front of the television, using caffeine too late in the day, or drinking alcohol late at night to relax are all examples of behaviors that can lead to sleep problems. These behaviors might not appear to be harmful, yet they are gradually deteriorating the quality of your sleep night after night. With the passage of time, your energy levels decrease, your hormones undergo fluctuations, and your capacity to feel close to and receptive to your spouse diminishes. Others are the result of more fundamental problems, such as persistent pain, worry, or drugs that disrupt the normal cycles of sleep. If this is the situation for you, You should not be content with a lack of rest. Have a conversation with your physician. You might be able to make some straightforward adjustments, such as modifying your schedule, giving a sleep aid a try for a short period of time, or treating an underlying disease such as apnea or restless leg syndrome. A peaceful night's sleep is something you deserve, not only so that you can remain attentive, but also so that you can be fully present in every aspect of your life, including the relationships you have. Your mind will become more keen, your mood will improve, and you will be better able to maintain connections, not only with other people but also with yourself. After several months of getting enough rest, Lester said that he did not merely feel younger. He experienced a greater sense of vitality. Once more, he experienced a sense of capability. Intimacy was not something he feared, nor did he question whether or not his body would cooperate. It was the fact that he had faith in himself that made all the difference. I would appreciate it if you could use the 6th comment section below to let me know that you are continuing viewing this video and that you are finding these insights to be helpful. I strongly suggest that you subscribe to the channel and activate the bell if you have not already done so. This will ensure that you do not miss any videos. With your assistance, we are able to continue producing high-quality content that will both inform and inspire you. Now, let's proceed with our plans. Expecting the same level of intimacy as it did in the past is the 7th mistake. Decades ago, one of the most subtle barriers to connection later in life was the assumption that it should feel exactly the same as it did 30 or 40 years before. Because it should have the same beat, come with the same urgency, or match the same physical expression as the last one that was used. On the other hand, when it does not, some individuals believe that they have misplaced something vital. They have been unsuccessful. It is possible that the most enjoyable period of their lives has already passed them by. However, that is not at all accurate. In point of fact, the closeness that can develop after the age of 65, provided that it is founded on trust, kindness, and presence, is frequently more profound than anything that could have been rushed or driven by performance in our younger years. One thing that does not alter is your value or your capabilities. The nature of the link takes on a different form. On the other hand, if you do not permit that shape to develop, you run the chance of missing out on something that is actually significant. I once had a conversation with a woman named Evelyn, who was 68 years old and had recently begun dating again after being widowed for a number of years. She shared with me how uncomfortable she felt throughout the initial stages of her experiences. Her body had undergone a transformation. Her adaptability was not as high. Unlike in the past, her skin did not react in the same way. She constantly comparing herself to her younger self, which caused her to feel dissatisfied with herself. Nevertheless, a wonderful event took place after that. I'm not the person I used to be, but I'm still the same person, she said to her boyfriend in a conversation that took place one evening. Simply said, I need you to move up a notch. And in that same instant, everything became more pliable. It was a laugher. More time was spent holding each other. They were eager to discover new things. Instead, what they discovered was not a relic from the past. It was a fresh take on the concept of proximity. Moreover, it was just as genuine. Too many people over the age of 65 are under the impression that their intimate encounters do not count if they do not involve any form of penetration or if they do not adhere to a particular script. The truth of the matter is, however, that genuine forms of connection include things like physical contact, eye contact, talk in bed, and exploration of each other's interests. Emotion is carried by them. It stimulates the hormones. They reawaken feelings of joy. If you let your understanding of what it means to be intimate to grow, then your experience of love will also grow. And yes, it is acceptable to feel sorrow over the things that have turned out differently. To regret the ease, the quickness, and the simplicity of things that were previously a natural progression. Change, however, should not be confused with loss. What you have right now is the opportunity to connect with one another in ways that are mindful, unhurried, and emotionally powerful. The current phase of life does not require any kind of performance. It urges one to be present. This shift in perspective can be especially crucial for males, who are frequently told that their value is derived on their roles and responsibilities. In the event that things do not function in precisely the same manner, the feeling of shame quickly sets in. Intimacy, on the other hand, is not about being perfect. Making yourself available to whatever your body has to offer on that particular day is the key. As a result of this openness, your partner will experience feelings of safety, desire, and proximity to you. When it comes to couples who have been together for decades, rekindling their connection may require them to let go of their previous expectations and instead begin to form new ones. Attempt to hold each other without any preconceived notions. Instead than talking about what used to feel wonderful, try talking about what feels good now. Allow your imagination to direct you rather than relying solely on your memories. Furthermore, if you are initiating a new relationship later in age, it is important to be truthful about where you are in life. When I say, "This is where my body is at, but I still want connection," there is a certain beauty in that statement. A sincerity of that nature is irresistible. In addition to fostering trust, it makes room for both parties to present themselves in their authentic state. I have heard that the most enjoyable moments that older folks experience do not come from trying to recreate their youth. The realization that love is still present in their bodies, in their voices, and in their hands is the source of these feelings. Because it is no longer about performance, that connection is still possible. And it may even be more rewarding now than it was before. Having presence is the key. When you stop trying to recreate what intimacy used to be, you give yourself the opportunity to find out what it is capable of being in the present moment. To add insult to injury, there are instances when that version proves to be more satisfying than anything that came before it. Lastly, some thoughts. Please pause for a moment of silence as we get to the end of this video and think about everything that we have discussed today. What did you find to be the most noteworthy? Should you stop comparing yourself to the person you used to be? Was this the reminder you needed? Or the concept that providing oneself with sustenance, relaxation, and emotional presence is just as important, if not more so, than the workings of the machine? It is not an isolated occurrence if you are in your senior years and you are still experiencing feelings of desire, curiosity, and a need for closeness. In addition, you are not in any way damaged. Those feelings that you are experiencing are completely normal, and recognizing and embracing that aspect of yourself can lead to opportunities for connection, healing, and joy that many people believe are no longer attainable. To be intimate after the age of 65, you don't have to be perfect. It is necessary to be genuine, truthful, patient, and perhaps even a little bit courageous. Whether you are in a long-term relationship or exploring connection for the first time, it is important to keep in mind that the choices you make on a daily basis, whether it be getting enough rest, drinking water, having that difficult talk, or letting go of past expectations, are the decisions that keep intimacy alive. They ensure that you continue to feel like yourself. I hope that even if just one of these 7 points struck a chord with you today, you will remember it and consider it important. Not as a kind of coercion, but rather consent. You are granted permission to age gracefully, to love with openness, and to think that you still possess the right to be near to others. We appreciate you being here with us today. It would be wonderful if you could get in touch with us. Please leave a comment below and tell us about one item you discovered today and how you intend to put it to use in your life right now. We place a high value on your opinions, so please do not be reluctant to share them with us. Our inspiration and encouragement are greatly increased as a result of reading your remarks. I would appreciate it if you would like, subscribe, and share this video if you found it to be informative and enjoyable. With your assistance, we are able to continue producing high-quality content that will both inform and inspire you. We appreciate you taking the time to watch, and we hope to see you in the future video.